Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Sorry I'm a little bit late. My voice is a little bit thingy because I've been teaching, I've been talking for the past 3 hours already. And sorry I'm a little bit late. I finished work at 1 o'clock here in Spain, and then I had to have a quick sandwich. But here I am now anyway with our update on the mushroom murder trial. So there's been a lot, of course, happening today. This morning I did a live about the events in Liverpool in the UK. I've got many other things to tell you about, things that have been happening in Spain. But one thing at a time. I can only talk about one thing at a time. And I can only do so much, can't I? So, yeah, I'm a little bit hoarse, which is a bit unfortunate because I've got a lot of reading stuff out to do. But yesterday was day 20 of this mushroom murder trial. This lady, where is she? This lady, Erin Patterson, accused of murdering 3 of her relatives, or her in-laws, or her estranged in-laws, by putting death cap mushrooms in the lunch that she cooked for them, and seriously hurting another one who did survive and has lived to tell the tale, literally, because has been able to testify in this case. Now, in the description of this video, you'll find the playlist. So all 20 days of the trial so far, all the videos are there. I've reported on every day that there's been the trial, and also there's a couple of recaps in there. So if you don't know much about this case and you want to catch up, that's how you can do so. So where we've got to today, it's very interesting, because what we're going to hear about today are the interviews that Erin Patterson had with the police when they first started suspecting her, I suppose, when they wanted to go round to her house, have a look at her house, take her devices, see what her searches were, what the kitchen was like, etc. And so we're going to hear. We don't get to see the video of the interview, but the jury has the interview, Erin's police interview, or if police interviews have been shown to the jury in this trial, and that's what we're going to hear about today. So apparently it was quite a dramatic day, because also there was some conflict between the defence and one of the expert witnesses. So that's what we're going to look at. So first of all, I want to say thank you to everyone for watching. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for being members. Oh, and if you're a member, we've got the new emoji. We've got the Pinocchio emoji now. So if you, because, you know, we do feel that Erin has been caught out in quite a few lies, hasn't she? The biggest lie, of course, that Erin has told is that she had cancer. She said that she told these people, she got them all together for lunch to say that she had cancer, when it turns out she never had cancer. And not only allegedly, she fed them all these poisonous mushrooms, but then they all prayed for her afterwards. So if Erin is guilty of this crime, it is a horrendous, more horrible than most, because it's took so much planning. She will have had to have sit there and actually watch them eat what was going to kill them. And then all praying for her afterwards. So it's particularly nasty, isn't it, this crime? If she's guilty, of course. So if you remember, you'll be able to put up the Pinocchio emoji when you think, not only in this case, a lot of the cases we deal with, people are lying, aren't they? So we've got the Pinocchio emoji now. What else did I want to say? Oh yeah, so thank you to anyone who's bought me a Ko-fi, sent me a super sticker, PayPal me, sent me a nice email, left me a nice message. Thank you to all of you that support my channel. Thank you. And as is custom, hi to my lurkers, hi to replay crew. And now let's have a look at who's actually here in the chat. Oh, so there's quite a lot of chatting going on there. Hi, Swin. Hope you managed to make it. Hi, Sheep Farming. Thank you. Hi, Tracy. Hi, Maria. Hi, David. Hi, Bluebell. Bluebell, tell me about it. I know the feeling. Hi, Amy. Hello from Inverloch, Victoria. Oh, hi. Good to see you've caught alive, Amy. Oh, everyone's too scared to post their opinions. Well, I wonder why. You know, life is all about opinions, isn't it? I mean, you know, they're only opinions, aren't they? They're just thoughts. Doesn't mean they're true. It's what we just speak our truth, don't we? The thing is, what will decide if Erin is guilty or not will be with the jury's verdict. The jury will decide if she's guilty or not, depending on the evidence. But you know, I just feel the more this trial goes on, the more you think the evidence is a little bit irrefutable. But you know what? You never know. It's the jury that will decide, of course. Hi, Angel. Okay, so let's have a look. Let's have a look what happened in the latest day in court. But go right down to the bottom. So it's been another full day. So, you know, there's been a few days that were like just half days. But today has been another full day of evidence. There's a lot to talk about. So, good morning, they say. Thanks for joining us for today's evidence in Erin Patterson's triple murder trial. So we have to remember that Erin has pled not guilty. It's the jury that will decide. The jury have had all the, you know, they've seen things we haven't. We hear about it third hand. But the jury has actually seen these videos. Well, you know, so they're in a better position to make their decision as to whether she's guilty or not. So she has pled not guilty to deliberately poisoning her in-laws with death cap mushrooms during a lunch at her Leongatha home. Now, remember, this was July 2023. So they've gone. I'm not going to go through what was presented on Monday. I just want to go straight to what was presented yesterday. So the jury's back in and Sally Ann Atkinson was called back to the stand. Let's have a look at a photo of Sally. We had a look at Sally. So this is the lady who did the investigation and had a lot of contact with Erin. And she gave a lot of evidence yesterday and now she's giving evidence again. So she says that the Department of Health investigation into the mushroom poisoning lasted until August the 11th and a report was compiled. Sorry, God, my voice. I have to rest my voice after this. Miss Atkinson said it was highly unlikely that the commercial supply chain, so mushrooms can be bought in a store, were contaminated with amatoxin as they only grow in the wild. I mean, we have to take all this on board. You know, in my personal opinion, there's no way those mushrooms came from a store, were poison mushrooms that came from a store. I don't believe it for a minute. Anyway, she's the expert and that's what she thinks, but it depends what the jury ends up thinking. So she says the Food Safety Unit established nothing wrong with the mushroom supplies to Woolworths or any food packaging tampering. And she read from the report, based on the above, the risk to public health was deemed very low. No food sampling, other than samples already collected from the lunch, were considered to be warranted. So yeah, we have to remember nobody else, so if those mushrooms were contaminated, remember Erin said she couldn't remember where she bought them from, but they narrowed it down to various sort of stores. They examined these stores. Nobody else presented with death cap mushroom poisoning. Only the people that were at this lunch. And Erin was not poisoned. So, as I say, I'm not going to go through the whole, because this is the 20th day. I could be here all day just telling you what's happened so far. But we have to remember these little nuggets. So she says there were no other reports of any other people in the community falling ill due to mushrooms. So it can't just have been in one packet, can it? We've got to be realistic. If it'd be a batch of bad mushrooms, wouldn't it? It wouldn't just be one packet of mushrooms. So she says that the department determined that the Leongatha lunch outbreak was an isolated incident. And now her defence barrister, Colin Mandy, stands up to question Miss Atkinson. So let's have a little reminder of Mr. Mandy. This is Colin's he's called Colin. This is Erin's defence lawyer. He doesn't seem to have done much up to now, but he seems to be coming into his own a bit now. Thank God, because, she needs a defence. So she needs a good defence, and she hasn't had a good defence, I don't think, so far. But I think part of that reason is because there is no defence. But anyway, Mr. Mandy is having a little bit to say now. So what did he say? So he apparently quite irritated Miss Atkinson, but anyway, let's see. So he took Miss Atkinson through some of the evidence she gave to court yesterday. He questioned whether Erin told her about buying the ingredients for the meal from Leongatha Woolworths on the Friday. And Miss Atkinson insists that Erin initially told her she had bought the majority of the ingredients in that trip. He suggests that Erin said the meat had been purchased on the Friday, and Miss Atkinson says the conversation indicated they were all purchased at that time. So that he then asks Miss Atkinson about making her statement to the homicide squad on August the 29th about her investigation. And he takes her to a paragraph of her statement. Erin stated that the majority of the mushrooms had come from the Leongatha Woolworths, and then a section about her buying steaks on the Friday night and cooking them on the Saturday. She agrees under questioning that the only specific date in the statement was about the steak and not the mushrooms. God, I just think they get into these sort of immaterial arguments. Anyway, Miss Atkinson continues to insist that Erin told her the majority of the ingredients were purchased on the Friday, but agrees that Erin didn't specify that she bought the mushrooms on a different day. Yesterday, Miss Atkinson told the jury she had the impression that Erin had used some of the dried mushrooms from the Asian grocery store in a previous meal. Now, do you remember that? Because initially, Erin had said not to Miss Atkinson, but since then, that she bought these mushrooms ages ago. She was going to put them in a carbonara, and she decided when she opened the packet, they were too strong smelling. So she didn't put them in a carbonara. But then when Miss Atkinson came to give her evidence, she said that it sounded to her that Erin said she did use some of them in the carbonara. So this is the argument we're reduced to. So, yeah, she told the jury, she had the impression that Erin had used some of the dried mushrooms from the Asian grocery store in a previous meal. So I'm just putting some Vicks, on so that my voice doesn't go really weird. Anyway, now Miss Atkinson agrees that the conversation with Erin about that was unclear, and she now tells the court that's why she asked Erin about it again in a later exchange. And Colin Mandy suggests her notes clearly say that Erin had not used the mushrooms in that previous dish, but Miss Atkinson points out in her notes a line about Erin putting them in a container until she uses them again. So they've got into this argument. He's trying to, what difference does it make? What difference does it make? I suppose the difference it makes is if those mushrooms were contaminated and she'd already used them in a carbonara, why did people not die then? That's it, isn't it, at the end of the day? When she first used those mushrooms in the carbonara, why did people not die then? Makes you wonder. So I suppose that's the point that's being tried to be established. So it's a fairly tense exchange between Erin Patterson's barrister, Colin Mandy, and this health official, Sally Ann Atkinson. And Mr. Mandy challenges Miss Atkinson on the accuracy of her recollections, and the two people are at times speaking over each other. Justice Christopher Beale intervenes, and he asks the witness to wait and solely answer the question. No, he's not a juror in the case. I think he's just joking. Otherwise, anyway, I don't know. Okay, so let's just have a look at the judge. So here's the judge. So he's intervened because Mr. Mandy, the defense lawyer, and this woman, Sally, who's giving her evidence, they're having a ding-dong. So the judges had to come in and intervene. He says if there's any perception of unfair questioning, prosecutors will have the chance to re-examine her on these matters afterwards. And both Miss Atkinson and Mr. Mandy offer a quick apology for any speaking over the other, and the questioning continues. And I think another relevant thing is that don't forget that there's a few times people tried to get hold of Erin and couldn't get hold of her. She didn't want to, she was blanket. This Miss Atkinson, Sally, she says that Erin was sort of blanking her, wasn't she? And this is what Mr. Mandy is asking about now. He's asking about some of the phone calls that she says that Erin didn't respond to. He asked Miss Atkinson if she knew Erin was in hospital at the time of her attempted calls, including one time when she was in a meeting with Child Protection. She says she spoke to a nurse who confirmed that Erin was in that meeting. She also agrees that in a follow-up text message after the missed call, she never gave Erin a time to respond. And Miss Atkinson agrees that she did not press Erin on the urgency because she didn't want to get her offside during the investigation. Now, but remember, the only way that she finally got through to Erin was by asking the woman from the Child Protection Services, when she went round to visit Erin, Miss Atkinson had to ask her to tell Erin to contact her, do it that way. But Mr. Mandy's, the defence, he's trying to challenge that, which is fair enough. Sounds like he's having a good time questioning Miss Atkinson's evidence. So they're now going through more texts from the following 2 days. And Miss Atkinson agrees that she knew there was a lot going on for Erin at the time. They talk about a 19-minute phone call between Miss Atkinson and Erin, and she agrees Erin answered all of her questions that day. Mr. Mandy takes Miss Atkinson to her efforts to try to help Erin remember where the Asian store was. They go back through what Miss Atkinson said to court yesterday. He suggests she did not make any reference to driving around that day, but was talking in general. But Miss Atkinson insists she did specify the day. They're now talking about what information Erin provided Miss Atkinson about the mushroom packaging and what they look like. Mr. Mandy reminds her of the evidence this morning that as far as she was concerned, there were no mushrooms found by the council at any Asian stores matching the description Erin gave her. But the court is shown a photo of what appeared to be dried, dark-coloured mushrooms in individual clear plastic bags sitting in a box on a shelf. And a white label on each bag reads, Black fungus, 50 grams, $3.99. Miss Atkinson agrees it did match Erin's description, but she says she believes it would be a larger size than the packet that Erin says she bought. And she says Erin later explained the mushrooms were not dark brown in colour. So what Mr. Mandy is trying to say, he's found somewhere where they sell these mushrooms in individual clear plastic bags. But I still don't see how that accounts for the fact that nobody else has been found ill with these mushrooms. Was it just one packet then? No. They're now talking about whether Erin told Miss Atkinson she may have bought the mushrooms in Mount Waverley or whether she said Glen Waverley. The two suburbs are side by side in Melbourne's southeast. Mr. Mandy asks whether Miss Atkinson contacted the council when Erin changed the location to Glen Waverley. She says she did and also mentioned Kingsway as a street name Erin mentioned. The defence makes comment that Kingsway is a street in Glen Waverley that has Asian grocers along it. And Mr. Mandy is now pressing her on whether she asked the council officer to go and look at shops on Glen Waverley. And she says she doesn't know what the officer did with the new information. So Mr. Mandy's defence policy seems to be discredit the witness. This particular, he hasn't hardly cross-examined any other witnesses, but he's got it in for this woman. So Mr. Mandy brings up notes from a health department meeting in which one of her colleagues mentions that someone had gone to an Oakley store and found small bags of dried mushrooms with no label. Miss Atkinson agrees she followed that up with Erin, and Erin confirmed that it was the style of packaging that she meant when she provided her description. Then the court takes a break. First, questioning turns to Miss Atkinson's discussion with a colleague about the progress of her investigation. Her notes indicate they talked about whether there was merit in talking to Monash Council about following up on the Glen Waverley information. Miss Atkinson agrees she told her colleague it would be a good idea for the council officers to do a walk through the shopping strip. and now they're taking a break while Mr. Mandy checks whether he has anything else to ask Miss Atkinson. After the break, Mr. Mandy has one more question for Sally Ann Atkinson. We're taken to text between Erin and Miss Atkinson. It's a long list of detailed questions which were shared with the court yesterday and includes a question asking her about the store's location. Notably, it confirms that at this stage, Miss Atkinson was only communicating with Erin about Oakley, Mount Waverley and Clayton, with no reference to Glen Waverley. Oh my God, confused. You will be. Mr. Mandy finishes questioning Miss Atkinson and the prosecution returns for a few more questions. This poor woman, I bet she couldn't wait to get out there. So Prosecutor Jane Warren, who I don't have a photo of, I'm afraid, goes back over the evidence about whether Erin said Mount Waverley or Glen Waverley. And Miss Atkinson says Erin first mentioned Glen Waverley on August the 3rd. They're now going through some of the texts with Erin about trying to locate the store in which Miss Atkinson wrote Mount Waverley. Miss Atkinson is asked if Erin corrected her to say Glen Waverley, and she says Erin did not. And Miss Atkinson now has finished her testimony. I bet she went to lie down in a dark room. I bet she couldn't wait to get out of there. Do you think? I think she could not wait to get out of there. Hi, Alana. Alana says hello to you all. So, right, who are we going to have a look at now? Oh, no. So I haven't got a picture of this guy either. So the next witness is Detective Sergeant Luke Farrell. And, you know, I think these are the interesting bits, aren't they, that we want to know, you know, about her interviews with the police. I hope she's going to take the stand at some time because we want, and not that we'll be able to see her take the stand, but we want words from her mouth, don't we? Because that's how we feel that we can judge better, you know, how we feel about Erin. So Sergeant Farrell is attached to the homicide squad and he investigated the case, including going to Erin's home in Leongatha with a search warrant. Sorry, I've got to, oh my God, my voice is awful. That's 3 hours of teaching, 2 hours of a live this morning. I've literally been talking since, you know, 8 o'clock this morning. My voice is suffering because of it. So I'm so sorry. It's a little bit, anyway, it's nothing I can do. I'll just keep ploughing on. So Sergeant Farrell says the officers searched Erin's home on August the 5th, the Saturday after the lunch in question, for leftovers, mobile phones and digital devices. And he says that Erin was present during that search and the court was shown photos taken during that search. So the court is shown a series of photographs. The first one shows a kitchen with a set of 4 drawers under a bench top. On the fridge at the side, there's a colourful piece of rainbow art along with a calendar, and on the beach is a toaster, kettle and coffee jar. Another photo shows the contents of the bottom left drawer, a set of manuals, including a manual for a Sunbeam Food Lab electronic dehydrator. Another photo shows what's identified as a butler's pantry, with what the witness identifies as food scales on some drawers. Then we're taken to another photo of a bench top with a cookbook on the bench. It's the Recipe Tin Eats cookbook titled Dinner by Naji Mahashi. I've never heard of it. Have any of you? Let me know in the chat. Have you ever, any of you ever heard of this cookbook? The police officer says he opened the cookbook and the page for the beef Wellington recipe was spattered with cooking liquids. So basically what that means is, you know, she's used that page. If you've, you know, years nowadays, we don't have many cookbooks these days, do we? Because these days we tend to, well, I do, tend to, you get your recipes on your phone, don't you, online. You don't have to have cookbooks, but of course years ago people would have a lot of cookbooks. And if you're cooking something on a regular basis, you're bound to get sort of food splashed on it, etc. So the page for the beef Wellington was spattered with cooking liquids. Sergeant Farrell says that the officers also found cut fruit on a platter in the fridge and a white jug with brown liquid, which I presume would be brown liquid. Would that be gravy maybe or whatever? But, you know, I don't know. But these are the things that they found anyway in there. He says a computer was found in a bedroom on the upper floor. He says he thinks it was Erin's son's bedroom, and the jury has shown various photos of the Cooler Master PC, which was in a drawer in a bedroom but was taken out by police officers and placed on the carpet before being photographed from every angle. It's a fairly standard looking black desktop PC. The court is shown a photo of an open wardrobe and a black Samsung phone sitting on a shelf. Sergeant Farrell says the photographer was a bit too short to capture the phone on the top shelf. So poor photographer. So he's been sort of height shamed in front of the whole world because this comment prompted a ripple of laughter in the courtroom. But he confirms that a later photo of the phone on the table is the same one. So now we know that the police photographer is a little bit of a short ass. I mean, I don't think they should really. That seems horrible. Anyway, never mind. The next photo shows a tablet device on a carpeted floor. And Sergeant Farrell says this was found in a bedroom belonging to one of the children. So there you go. That's another device they've found. Now the plates. Now I've been thinking a lot about the plates. Remember the surviving witness, Ian Wilkinson. He said, let's have a picture of him. So Ian Wilkinson, who's the only person who survived this lunch, he said that their dinners, and not only him, I think some of the other people before they died, because don't forget, because it took them such a long time to die, they did get a chance to give some testimony. And they all said it was grey plates, that the 4 dinner guests were served on grey plates, whereas Erin's plate was smaller and a different colour. And Ian Wilkinson was very, you know, even when he was challenged on that, he insisted that. But these grey plates, I've been obsessed with them. Where are they? They don't seem to be in Erin's house anymore. Did she dispose of them? You know, maybe they're the things she put in the bin when she went in her, how long was that? 9-second rest stop in the toilet where she certainly didn't have time to go to the toilet. Maybe she got rid of those plates. Well, she could have got rid of them anywhere, couldn't she, really? So I just think, where are these plates? So the court is now being shown some still images from a video of the search of Erin Patterson's house on August the 5th. The first photo shows the living room of her home where the lunch was held. As we've had described previously, the kitchen is to one side and the lounge room the other in an open plan design. We are then shown a photo of an open dishwasher. Now, don't forget, the media are being actually shown these things. They can't take photos of them or reproduce them, but they can describe them to us. There are several plates in the dishwasher which are red on top and black on the bottom. That sounds like the plates the children described their meals were on, as well as a white plate with some colour on it. They are all neatly stacked into the dishwasher. Another photo shows a drawer in the kitchen, first closed and then opened. At the back of the drawer is a stack of 4 dark-coloured plates, and in the front is a single multicoloured plate with stripes of blue, black and orange against a white background. Now, didn't they say that Erin's plate was orange? Though this says it's multicoloured, blue, black and orange. So Sergeant Farrell says the search took considerable time. He says he sat down with Erin and he took possession of her mobile phone, asking her if there was a PIN code required to open it. He says she provided a 4-digit code and a 6-digit code that she thought might unlock it, but no code was needed. On attempting to open the phone, I didn't require any passcode at all, he says. In the video, Erin and Sergeant Farrell are seated at her dining table. Erin is wearing a light beige-coloured jumper and is sitting with her face propped up in one hand and elbows on the table. Sergeant Farrell is sitting in front of an open notebook and has a mobile phone in front of him. The video shows her handing him the phone. He appears to check he can open it, and then he places it on the table in front of Erin. Erin leans over the table, which is fairly wide, to assist him with the phone, and then the video ends. So, Sergeant Farrell says the police left the Leongatha house after that video was filmed. They're now turning to another search. This was conducted on the same day, but at Erin's Mount Waverley home. Oh yeah, she's got this holiday home, hasn't she? He says no one was present during this search. And Sergeant Farrell says no food items or packaging of interest was found at either home. And defence lawyer Colin Mandy is now on his feet. He confirms Erin's children were home during the search of the Leongatha home. And Sergeant Farrell says Erin was told that Heather Wilkinson had died, and she expressed surprise. And he was unsure, though, whether Erin was told Gail Patterson had died. I don't know what she was or wasn't aware of, he said, but she was told in my presence, and she expressed that she did not know beforehand. So when he told her that Heather was dead, Erin seemed to not know that. So more photos are shown. The first is of a corner couch type piece of furniture and contains a power board with a number of cables plugged in. Items on the couch include headphones and a tablet. Mr. Mandy asked Sergeant Farrell about a black item sitting on the windowsill, and he says, I don't recall whether I saw it or not, but nobody identifies to the court what the black brick-shaped item is. Do you think that could be the dehydrator? Let's have a look at the photo of the dehydrator. Is it possible that, wonder what that was? If nobody's saying where, would it be that? That's a brick-shaped thing, I suppose. Well, how do they describe it? A black item sitting on the windowsill. Well, that wouldn't be in the living room, surely. I wonder what that was. Strange. Oh. Maria, thank you so much. A hot chocolate. Do you know what? I could just drink a hot chocolate, actually. Thank you so much. Let's put my thank you on. Thank you, Maria. So kind. Thank you. Yeah, nice hot chocolate. I might have one after this. I need one, I think. Thank you. Yeah, we all want to see the photos, don't we? It's so frustrating. I mean, listen, it's good having it all described to us. It's better than nothing, isn't it? Could be one of those cases where everything's completely secret. But it would be afterward. I imagine after the trial, we will get to see the photos. Certainly hope so. I'd like to see the photos, that's for sure. Right, I've lost track of where I am now. Okay. So yeah, I wonder what that black item was. Anyway, we're back to the images of plates at Erin's home. Mr. Mandy asked Sergeant Farrell whether he directed the officer filming the search to video the plates. He says he didn't, but he agrees they were of interest to him. He confirms that police didn't take photos of all the plates in the house, and none of the plates were seized, bar the one in the fridge with fruit on it. And he says that none of the plates were measured. You know, that I'm surprised at that, because right from the beginning, I've thought the plates are important. Anyway, there you go. That's where we are. So the court is shown the photos of the plates in the dishwasher again, which Sergeant Farrell agrees includes smaller and larger plates. From left to right, we see a large white plate, a similarly large plate that is red on top and black on the bottom, and then a smaller version of that red and black plate. 3 more plates sit beside it, including 2 in the middle where Sergeant Farrell says it's harder to tell the exact colour on the back. Now, Ian Wilkinson was clear these were grey plates that Erin served the guests' meal on. Where are the grey plates? So now the court is showing photo of different plates stacked in a drawer. At the back of the drawer are 4 black-coloured plates. The bottom 2 appear to have a red surface on the top of them, or the eating surface as Sergeant Farrell dubs it. The bottom one has a small chip on the edge. Mr. Mandy puts to Sergeant Farrell that the plates are side plates, not dinner plates, and the detective says it's hard to say without anything there for comparison. We're reminded that these photos are stills from the video taken by a videographer moving through the scene. Sergeant Farrell is not aware of any more detailed footage being captured showing these plates. Mr. Mandy reads out part of a transcript from Sergeant Farrell's conversation with Erin at the start of the search. Sergeant Farrell explains why the police are there, including that it related to a death. And Mr. Mandy says Erin replied, "Who died?" He then finishes questioning the detective, who leaves the witness stand. And the court now breaks for lunch. So Mr. Mandy's not quite so insistent with this witness, maybe because lunchtime's coming up, or maybe because it's a man. Let's have a look at this video. I'll give my voice a little minute to recover.
A public health worker giving evidence in the trial of accused triple murderer Erin Patterson is being quizzed about a Department of Health investigation into the mushroom poisonings. Alexandra Alvaro is at the Latrobe Valley Magistrates Court for us now. Hi, Alex. So what happened in court this morning?
Morning, Ros. Well, Sally Ann Atkinson is that public health worker. Her evidence just wrapped a very short time ago, and she says that she interacted with Erin Patterson in the days after that beef Wellington lunch as part of the Department of Health investigation into the mushroom poisoning. She says that she was worried about poison.
Okay, I'm sorry. Every time I see this looks like the least genuine upsetness that just doesn't look genuine to me, but I'm sure some people think she does look genuine.
Poisonous mushrooms potentially floating around in the supply chain and the risk to public health. Now, Erin Patterson has pleaded not guilty to the murder of 3 of her estranged husband's relatives by serving them a beef Wellington meal containing poisonous death cap mushrooms. Now, Sally Ann Atkinson has told the court that when she spoke to Erin Patterson, she told her that the mushrooms from that meal had come from an Asian grocer, dried from an Asian grocer, in Melbourne's southeast suburbs and fresh sliced from Woolworths. And she gave evidence today that the Department of Health report concluded that the Leongatha lunch incident was isolated, the risk to public health was low, and that there wasn't anything wrong with the mushrooms being supplied to Woolworths. And she also gave evidence yesterday that there were inconsistencies in the story that Erin Patterson had told her. For example, she said that Ms. Patterson initially told her that the mushrooms from the meal had been purchased on a Friday, but she said that that story then changed. Now, Erin Patterson's defence barrister, Colin Mandy, has questioned her over those what she called inconsistencies. He put to her rather that a date for purchasing the mushrooms had never been pinpointed originally, according to Ms. Atkinson's original notes. But Sally Ann Atkinson said that she doesn't note everything in detail when she takes scribble notes, and that her understanding was that originally the majority of the ingredients for the lunch had been purchased on a Friday. Now, as I say, Erin Patterson has pleaded not guilty. She says that she did not deliberately poison her lunch guests. Currently, we're hearing from Detective Sergeant Luke Farrell. He's just headed in, so I'll head back into court and bring you more updates throughout the day.
Yeah, so, yeah, some people perhaps think she looks genuine. Personally, not me, but anyway, there you go. Where am I going? Am I going the wrong way? Court breaks for lunch. Oh, I feel like I'm going the wrong way now. Yeah, I'm going. Court breaks for lunch. Oh, what happened after lunch? That's what I'm looking for. Court now breaks for lunch. Sorry, I'm looking for where they come back for lunch. Oh. Gosh, it certainly was a full day today. Oh my God. So, the jurors returned from their lunch break. It went for a little longer than expected, with some legal issues to sort through. Before the break, we heard from Detective Sergeant Luke Farrell, who is attached to the homicide squad. And remember, we saw all those photographs. Well, we didn't see, but the jury got to see all those photos of plates. And part of a transcript was read out to jurors. The court heard it was in a conversation between Sergeant Farrell and Erin during the search of her Leongatha home, where she appeared to be surprised when she learned of a death following the lunch. Now we're going to hear from Detective Leading Senior Constable Stephen Eppinstall, who is the police informant, it says, in this case. So he's answering questions from the prosecutor, Jane Warren. She's taking him back to the start of his investigation. He says he became involved in the case on August the 3rd when a lunch guest had become fatally ill. He said, "People think we, the homicide squad, only deal with murders, but that's not necessarily true. We're also coronial investigators on behalf of the coroner. So we take on complex death investigations that might be too big for local units. And we took it on in that capacity originally." He said he informed Erin that 2 people had passed away while he was carrying out a search warrant at her Leongatha home. And he told the court she appeared to be surprised by the news and asked, "Who died?" LSC Eppinstall says following that conversation, he then stepped in and spoke with Erin. He says he told her that Heather and Gail had passed away. Well, didn't she already know that Heather had passed away? Hadn't she already been told that? We're now taken to the Recipe Tin Eats cookbook, which was found on Erin's bench inside her home. It was a general discussion, but the beef Wellington came up. She explained to me she'd used the Recipe Tin Eats cookbook that was in the kitchen. There's a moment taken in the court to explain Recipe Tin Eats to Justice Beale, who appears to be unfamiliar with the highly popular Australian cookbook author Nagi Mayahashi. So you let me know, do you know about this cookbook author? I've never heard of her. The court is shown several pages, including one with a grid of photos outlining the separate steps involved in preparing the beef filling and encasing it in pastry. And on the final page is a photo of the final product, a golden brown loaf of pastry. The police informant's evidence is briefly interrupted with an objection from the defence to a question from the prosecution, and the jury leaves the room while the matter is discussed. Questioning continues. Miss Warren asked the informant about a video taken during the search of Erin's Leongatha home on August the 5th. We hear that the video shows the entire house, including the kitchen, before it descends into more detail, taking a look at each of the cupboards, the pantry, and inside the dishwasher. Now, they can't trace these grey plates, can they? Because then Miss Warren asks, in the video that you viewed, did you observe any plates that match the 4 grey plates that match the evidence that Ian Wilkinson gave in his evidence? And LSC Eppinstall says no. So remember, as we said earlier, Ian had given evidence that the 4 guests ate from grey plates, but while Erin ate from a different coloured plate. So yeah, they can't find these grey plates, can they? Anyway, then we're shown the digital forensics analysis report from phone B, which shows an entry for 4 factory resets. So remember, we heard about that the other day. The third one is 1:20 p.m. on August the 5th. And Miss Warren says, if that is in Melbourne time, that would be during the search of Miss Patterson's Leongatha home. But she says if it was Orco time, you would have to add 10 hours, which takes us to 11:20 p.m. The police witness tells the court Miss Patterson had a phone with her during the extensive search of her home. And she was talking about making arrangements for her daughter for ballet and that. But right from the start, she did have a phone. Yes, he says. So did Erin factory reset that phone while the police were there? Do you think? Hi, Claire B. Oh, thank you, Claire B. Again, very kind. Let's get my little thank you thing up. Thank you, Claire. Oh, like the big Princess Tia's come down now, so you may hear some barking. Maybe not. Thank you so much for that, Claire. That's really kind. Thank you. So, did Erin do that factory reset? Did she do that factory reset while the police were actually at her house? So the court is then played a video of a police interview with Erin Patterson on August the 5th at 4:41 p.m. after the search of her home. She is wearing the same beige-coloured jumper she was wearing during the house search and sitting in a white-walled room with a desk. The judge encourages the juror to look up at the video rather than a transcript of it that they can access on their tablets. That's what we wish we could do, isn't it? We wish we could watch, the actual video, because it's good to have the transcript or to hear what it's saying, but, it'd be much better, of course, to be able to actually, see her face, judge her body language. Wouldn't it? It'd be much better if we could do that. So that's what the judge is encouraging the jurors to do, to watch the video rather than read about it. Erin gives her full name to the officer interviewing her, who explains to her that anything she says or does in the interview can be used in evidence against her. She softly responds to indicate she has understood his instructions as he runs through other rights she holds at this stage in the investigation. She gives the police officer her date of birth and confirms her Australian citizenship before also giving contact details. During the interview, Erin blinks and nods occasionally, but largely she has a neutral expression on her face as the officer runs through a series of questions. And the officer interviewing Erin tells her they're trying to understand what made her guest so ill and why she wasn't that sick. So don't forget, we had all the symptoms, didn't we? I mean, it was a dramatic difference in what happened to the guests and what happened to Erin. Erin had a little bit of diarrhea, if she even had that. And these guests were like, within a couple of days, were receiving liver transplants or too ill to have liver transplants. Their bodies were their vital organs were closing down. And Erin's little touch of nausea and that, it was nothing like it. Why is that? Anyway, she acknowledges that she understands. I'm sure you understand too, though, she said. I've never been in a situation like this before, and I have been very, very helpful with the health department during the week because I wanted to help that side, she replies. I do want to know what happened, so I've given them as much information as they asked for. So Erin is asked why her estranged husband's family were invited for lunch. Because I've got no other family, she responds. And she goes on to say, I like them a lot. They've always been good to me, and I want to maintain those relationships. So remember, that's what she said to the police. But let's just remember that earlier in the trial, we heard Erin Patterson had told her Facebook friends. I mean, her Facebook friends as well. So they're not like close friends, are they? Why did she tell her Facebook friends that she was so fucking done with this family? That's what she said to her Facebook friends. Whereas here now she's telling the police she invited them because she likes them a lot and they've always been good to her. And she wants to maintain those relationships. Well, one of those is a lie, isn't it? Either she's telling a lie to her Facebook friends when she said she was so fucking done with them, or she's lying when she said, you know, she liked them and she wanted to maintain their relationships. Not both true, are they? So then she speaks about her relationship with her in-laws. And she tells the officer, I think Simon hated that I had a relationship with his family. She then goes on to say she loved his family a lot and they had always been good to her. They always said to me they'd support me with love and emotional support, even though Simon and I were separated. And I really appreciated that because both my parents are gone. They're the only family I've got and the only grandparents that my children have. And I want them to stay in my kids' life. And that's really important to me. Well, as I say, maybe it is, but it's certainly not what she told her Facebook friends. Was it? You know, definitely it was not what she told her Facebook friends. So, what do we believe? Is she being a Pinocchio? Maybe you members there put the Pinocchios up. So she is asked about her time at the hospital with Dr. Webster, and she was told that they were expecting her. After she attended hospital, Erin and the doctor had a conversation which she recalls to the officer. Then he said to me, I can't say the exact word, but he said something along the lines of, we think they've eaten death cap mushrooms. So this is what they said to her at the hospital. Erin says during the police interview, and I said, what? And he said, yeah, that's what we think they've eaten. She says she told the hospital that there were leftovers she had thrown out and they could look for them. And the police interviewing her then turned to devices found at Erin's home. She says she has an old Nokia phone in case her regular phone needs to be sent off for repairs. Oh, then defence lawyer Colin Mandy says he has a bloody nose and the jurors are sent out for a quick break. Oh, poor Colin. Let's have another look at him. So her defence lawyer, Mr. Colin Mandy, he's got a bloody nose, so they have to pause while he sorts himself out, bless him. Hope he's okay. All the Pinocchios are coming out. I don't think many people believe her. Anyway, well, that's between, only Erin knows really if she's telling the truth, doesn't she? So we return and LSC Epinstall is taken to a map of Loch. The video of Erin's police interview has been stopped. Visible on the map is an oval, which appears to be the east of the township, and LSC Epinstall identifies it as a football oval. Now we're zooming in the locality of Outram, specifically a street where fungi expert Tom May Oh, Funky Tom. We've not heard about him for ages. Let's have a look at Funky Tom. This was the mushroom expert. He gave quite detailed information, didn't he, about the deaf cat mushrooms? We heard from him. God, it feels like a lifetime ago now, but it was only perhaps last week, wasn't it, that we heard from Funky Tom? He always reminds me of Ground Control to Major Tom. But yeah, not heard about him for a little while. Sorry. Good old Funky Tom. So, yeah, that was the place. It was Funky Tom, wasn't it? Tom May. The reason I'm calling him Funky Tom, for anyone who doesn't know, that's his nickname on the iNaturalist website. I'm not taking the mickey out of him by calling him Funky Tom. That's his own nickname that he put on the Naturalist website. And he had said that he'd seen deaf cat mushrooms in Outram, hadn't he? And we saw that Erin had accessed that website. So she knew there were deaf cat mushrooms in Outram. And also her phone went to that area, didn't it? So there's some laughter as the judge questions. I mean, they all seem to be having a good time. They keep breaking out laughing. There's some laughter as the judge questions whether an exhibit titled "Where is Map of All Locations" is a good idea. And it's agreed to give it a more specific name. So now, where are we going now? So the court is now being shown that map as part of Victoria's Gippsland region, with Loch, Outram, Corumburra and Leongatha circled in red. We'll see that in a moment. And Mr. Eppinstall is asked if he calculated the typical travel times between each location and their distance, to which he says yes. And it's confirmed that all locations are less than a 30-minute drive from Leongatha. So here they've very helpfully given us a map with 5 of the major locations in South Gippsland that have been named in the trial so far. So this is Victoria, of course. This is, the place that people might know. And then these smaller places, Leongatha, that is where Erin lives. That's her main residence. And then other places that have been mentioned were Coonwarra, Outram, Corumburra and Loch. So yeah, none of them are very far away from each other, are they? So now we're taken to a map entitled City of Monash, which includes Mount Waverley, Oakley and Clayton. We hear about Erin's connection to the area, including owning a Mount Waverley property, which has been referred to several times during the trial. And then the police informant goes through various maps of key locations. Oh God, no, I'm going back the wrong way there. I need to go up this way. So I did say these are in no particular order, so I'll just flag that again. Prosecutor Jane Warren says, before we jump to a different point in time, we're hearing about a visit to a Subway restaurant. LSC Eppinstall says he was told by Simon Patterson I can't believe my voice is still working. That on the day of the lunch, Erin Patterson had stopped with her son for dinner after dropping a friend of his at his home. And we're now being shown CCTV footage from Subway in Leongatha from July the 29th at 7:22 p.m, the night after the lunch took place. So this is the Monday then, because the lunch took place on a Sunday. So what's the importance of this, I wonder? So in the CCTV footage, we see a red car driving in and a boy getting out, who the court hears is Erin's son. The red car then drives out of the subway car park area onto the main street in Leongatha. And LSC Eppinstall says that Erin's son went into the subway restaurant. 6 minutes later, another clip shows Erin's son leaving the subway restaurant and taking a seat on the bench outside. Then a third CCTV clip shows a red car pull into the car park approximately 11 minutes after the start of the first clip. Erin's son gets into the red car, which is then reversed and driven out of the car park. Now, then there's an 11-minute window where the police are not sure where Erin went. So there's most of the time they can trace her steps, but some of the time, well, well, that's it. Everyone's allowed an opinion, but even they are allowed an opinion as well. So, I can't, I can't tell people who to block or not block. Just ignore. If there's somebody who's, as long as they're not actually saying anything really nasty, just ignore them. That is the best way, because, I can't tell people who they can block or who they can't block. That's up to them, isn't it, really? But if there's any insults go out or anything, then that's a different matter. Okay. Where are we? So, yeah, there's an 11-minute window when the police don't know where she was. So we're now shown a map of Leongatha, which includes a red pin for the subway restaurant. And Erin Patterson's home address is marked on the map by LSC Eppinstall, southwest of the restaurant. And prosecutor Jane Warren notes the 11-minute window between Erin Patterson dropping her son off and picking him up. The court hears there was no footage to help the police know with certainty where Erin was at this time. Oh, and there you go. Gosh, that seemed to happen all of a sudden. It's always happened just as it's getting interesting. So where do you think Erin went during that 11-minute window? So this is the day after. Maybe that's when she went to the dump to get rid of the dehydrator. I can't remember what day that was. She went to the dump. Or was she getting rid of the plates? I'm obsessed with these plates. Those grey plates are somewhere, even if Erin managed to dump them somewhere. But the trouble is, I suppose, if she's dumped them in a dumpster or in a bin somewhere, they'll have been taken away and they'll be broken. They'll probably never be found. But yeah. So, what do you think? What do you think about the plates? Let me know what you think in the comments. Where are these plates? Do you think Erin disposed of them? Why have they not turned up? Or do you think Ian was mistaken with the colour of the plates? I personally don't think that Ian was mistaken, because he was, he was challenged on it, and he insisted that they were grey plates, didn't he? And he remembered, and I'm sure that a couple of at least one, if not more, of the other people. Why can't I find Ian's photo? There it is. I'm sure that one or more of the victims that actually died, I'm sure they talked about grey plates as well. So I'm pretty confident that Erin served her guests their beef Wellington on grey plates, and it seems problematic to me that those grey plates are no longer able to be found. So, you know, what? Where are they? And where did Erin go in those 11 minutes that the police can't trace where she got to, where she went to? Makes you wonder. No. Right. So sheep farm, I've just deleted your last comment. We don't get into arguments in this chat. Nobody's getting into an argument. You can say what you like. You say you're on the jury. I don't believe you're on the jury, but I would just ignore you. But, you know, you can't be saying to people, oh, keep your opinions to yourself. People can have their opinions just as you can have your opinion. But you can't tell other people they can't have theirs. So, you know, that doesn't work on my channel. Sorry. I think she's probably thrown them out in a bin, don't you? Or water, the river, it could be anywhere, I suppose. But, you know. So I think there'll be a little summary probably. This video would be good to watch. They do good reporting on here, don't they? It has been useful.
A police interview with accused mushroom triple murderer Erin Patterson has been played to the jury in her trial. Alexandra Alvaro is at the Latrobe Valley Magistrates Court and joins us now. Hi again, Alex. So describe this video to us.
Yeah, that interview is being played out as we speak. It's from the 5th of August 2023, which is about a week after that beef Wellington lunch and the same day that a search warrant was executed on Ms. Patterson's home. Now, Erin Patterson is accused of murdering 3 of her estranged husband's relatives by serving them a beef Wellington meal containing death cap mushrooms. She's pleaded not guilty. Now, in this police interview, the police officer tells her that he wants to discuss with her the deaths of Heather and Gail. He said, that's news to you. He said that all of the guests of the lunch had become so ill that they were now in ICU, that Don Patterson had undergone a transplant. And as he's saying this, Erin Patterson is nodding, maintaining a pretty neutral expression. He says, we're trying to understand what made them so ill and why you're not that ill. And Erin Patterson tells him that so far she's been very helpful. She also wants to understand what's happened and that she's given them as much information as they have asked for. She was also asked why she invited the guests over for lunch. She says, because I've got no other family. She wants to maintain the relationship with those people in spite of what's happened between her and her estranged husband, Simon. She says they're good, decent people that have never done anything wrong. And as I say, that interview is continuing to be played to the jury as we speak.
And another officer, Alex, says he searched Ms. Patterson's home in the days after the lunch. What did he find?
Yeah, so this other officer says that search, as I say, took place on the same day as that police interview, but earlier in the afternoon. He said he kind of ran the jury through images that were taken during that search and stills of a video that had been taken during that search. There was an image of a manual of a food dehydrator. Now, the court has previously heard, or the prosecution's case is, that Erin Patterson dumped a food dehydrator at a local tip in the days after that beef Wellington lunch, and the prosecution argues that there were traces of death cap mushrooms on that day.
I mean, it's definitely, so I've put a poll up there. We had a poll before and it was overwhelming that you thought that Erin was probably guilty. So you've got, is she guilty? Yes, no, not sure. Now, then really we need another poll. So do you think she meant to kill them, or did she just mean to make the meal, you know? I don't know. Maybe she didn't mean to kill them. Maybe her intention was just to make the meal for whatever reason. So please leave what you think in the poll. The poll's anonymous, so just sometimes people probably think oh, but I don't want my name to go on that or whatever. Your name doesn't go on it when you press an option in the poll. It's completely anonymous. Even I don't know who's said. I know the percentages of who's saying guilty, who's saying not guilty, but I don't know who the individuals are. So don't be worried that it'll come up like knowing who you are. Just put what you think. Is she guilty? Yes, no, or not sure. To me, a big thing is this, that she dumped that food dehydrator, because to me, if it was true what Erin said so far, that she bought these mushrooms, she didn't know they were poisonous mushrooms, this packet from the Asian supermarket, you definitely wouldn't dump the dehydrator, would you? Because that would prove what you were saying. You'd be like, oh, look, there might be some traces left in the dehydrator. You would volunteer that dehydrator to the police, wouldn't you? It wouldn't have to be looked for. If you wanted to find out what happened to these relatives that you loved so much.
Dehydrator. There was also an image of a recipe Tinate's cookbook, and the officer said that there was food splatter on the page containing the recipe of the beef Wellington. He said that he asked Erin Patterson for the passcode to her phone, and she gave him two options, a 4-number code and a 6-number code, and that in the end, he says a passcode was not needed to access that phone. And he also said that when he arrived, he told Ms. Patterson that they were there to complete a search in relation to 2 deaths. And he said that came as a surprise to Ms. Patterson. He said that she asked who had died.
Yeah. So, yeah. So I think we're just... they normally put a summary. Yeah. So let's just read through the summary. Don't forget to vote what you think, guilty, not guilty, or not sure. I'll finish that poll off in a moment. I'm just going to go through these, the summary of what we learned today. Day 20 of this trial. Can't be much left of it, can there? And is Erin, the big question is Erin going to testify in her own defence? I mean, that is normally not recommended, isn't it, in murder trials? But maybe maybe she will be brought. So this is a summary of what we learned today. The Department of Health investigator Sally Ann Atkinson returned to the stand for another day of testimony, and we then heard from 2 members of Victoria Police involved in the investigation. First one up, Detective Sergeant Luke Farrell, attached to the homicide squad, who carried out a search warrant at Erin's Leongatha home on August the 5th. Then the police informant in the case, Detective Leading Senior Constable Stephen Eppinstall, took to the stand, and during his testimony, the court was played part of the police interview. And this is what we learned. Miss Atkinson told the court there were no reports of anyone else in the community falling ill due to mushrooms, and that the health department deemed the Leongatha lunch outbreak to be an isolated incident. Sergeant Farrell said that Erin expressed surprise when he told her that 2 of the lunch guests had died while he was at her Leongatha home conducting a search. 3, Erin had access to her mobile phone while her home was being searched. Digital forensic analysis shows one of the factory resets on her phone occurred at 1:20 on August the 5th. And that was important because that happened while the police were at Erin's home. So while the police were at Erin's home, searching her home, is that when she did one of these factory resets? I think that's what they're trying to allude to here. Number 4, when she was asked why she hosted the lunch in her police interview, Erin said she wanted to maintain the relationship with her estranged husband's family because she had no other family. But don't forget, as was also pointed out, she had told her Facebook friends she was done with that effing family. So, bit of a conflict there as well. And then number 5, in her police interview, Erin confirmed she had a second phone, an old Nokia phone, in case her regular phone needed to be sent off for repairs. And then also, don't forget, the grey plates weren't found. There's an 11-minute window where the police don't know where Erin was. Was she dumping those plates then? What was she doing? Where are those plates? They are my obsession. If I was in Australia, I'd be searching for those plates myself. Well, they're key, aren't they? There definitely were 4 grey plates. That's what Ian testified to. So where are those plates now? And the fact that they're not there is more suspicious than if they'd found them, in my opinion. So, right, let's have a look. Let me just see. Yeah. So let's have a look at the poll. Let's see what you decided. Hi, Susie. Yeah, nothing. If there's nothing, yeah, why dump the dehydrator exactly if she's innocent? Nothing to hide if no wrongdoing occurred. That's how it is, isn't it? And as we've said before, you know, as I say, if you don't know the whole story of these mushroom murders, the playlist is in the description box. So it's from day one of this playlist. You know, you can recap on everything that's happened from day one. And, you know, in my opinion, just to let you know the poll, I'm going to finish the poll now because I think it's an overwhelming. We've got 70% Erin is guilty, 17% not guilty, and 11% not sure. 17 votes, which doesn't seem like, look, that's quite a big percentage of the people that were in the chat, so that's quite good. Okay. Now, answering your question, Susie, what I think is if she knew what she was doing, why didn't she get rid of the dehydrator before they were ill? Now, I think she just never thought it would get picked up. That's what I think. I just don't think that Erin ever thought that it would get picked up that these people had been poisoned by death cap mushrooms. That's what I think. And then so that first time when she went to the hospital and they mentioned death cap mushrooms to her, that's why she discharged herself after 5 minutes. So she was in the hospital 5 minutes, and then they said to her, look, you may have been poisoned by death cap mushrooms. And she discharged herself immediately. That straight away is the first red flag for me. But I think she was absolutely gobsmacked that death cap mushrooms were mentioned. Don't forget, she was thought of as a super sleuth in her true crime community. She thought she was clever. When at the hospital they mentioned death cap mushrooms, she probably just, you know, literally SHIT herself, because to be like, oh my God, they know. So that's when I think the cleanup started, after they were in the hospital. But and death cap mushrooms were mentioned. And then it was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? She discharged herself from hospital. She didn't go back for a couple of hours. She didn't want to take her children to hospital, even though she was told, you know, by the hospital that she might need to have a liver transplant. The hospital were more concerned for her welfare and her children's welfare than she was. The hospital in the end phoned the police because they were so concerned that she wouldn't undertake tests, etc. So all these things in themselves are not proof of Erin's guilt, of course, but I do think that when you put all the little things together, you know, there's so much, as I say, one day, maybe when as the trial finishes, if we end up waiting a long time for a verdict, if I get a chance, we put together there's so many little things, isn't there? And they all accumulate. They're like snowballs, aren't they? You know, you start off with one little thing. Why did they have separate plates? You know, why was her portion smaller than theirs? You know, and you've got all these little things. Why did she throw away the dehydrator? Why did she discharge herself after 5 minutes? Why was it shown on her devices she'd been to these sites where there was death cap mushrooms? Why did she change her story about buying the mushrooms in an Asian supermarket? None of those in their own could stand up to make somebody get found guilty. But you add all those up together, and to me, I think it's quite compelling. But anyway. Yep. It's always good to you know, do the devil's advocate as well. You know, maybe she is innocent. But the thing is, if you studied law, then you'll know law looks at evidence, doesn't it? The jury will be looking at evidence, and all the evidence is compelling. There's so much of it, all small things in themselves, but all conspiring together. But anyway, it's the jury that will make the decision, not us. But we, you know, we're here to give our opinions, talk about a case that is intriguing, and also, you know, this awful thing that's happened to these people. You know, we must not forget the victims. Don, Gail, Heather and Ian. Ian's the only survivor. You know, and he's lost his wife, and they deserve justice. So if Erin has done this and is found guilty, I hope she never sees daylight again, because what she's done to these people is just foul. If she has done it, of course. Okay, so according to the poll anyway, most of you think probably she is guilty, but we'll see. Right, so I'm going to go now and rest my voice. So I've been speaking. It is now nearly 3 o'clock in the afternoon here in Spain, where I am. I've been talking non-stop since 8 o'clock this morning. So that's 8 hours. I've got one more class later on, and then I'm just going to rest my voice. But listen, thank you so much for watching. I want to thank Maria. Thank you so much for my hot chocolate. And also, thank you, Claire, for the super sticker. So much appreciated. Thank you to all of you for watching, participating, being kind to each other in the chat. You know, keep our chat kind. And, you know, everyone's entitled to their opinion in the chat, whether we agree with it or not. But we have to accept other people's opinions, don't we? What I'm going to do now, so I'm going to put my banner on. Please don't forget to like the video. Please subscribe if you're not already subscribed. It's completely free, but it really helps out the channel. And also don't forget to press notifications, and you must press all notifications so that you get the notification of the next video about this case or any other case that you're interested in. I will definitely be back tomorrow for tomorrow's see what happens tomorrow in this crazy case, in this crazy world. Okay, I'll see you really soon. Yeah, Pinocchio in the total. But listen, thanks for watching. I'll see you really soon in the next video, and until then, may your God go with you. Bye.